So this is it. This is what we're talking about today. This is a tiny little transmitter by a company called Teslogic. And what this thing is supposed to do is turn your phone into a portable dash. Now the reason why I'm very curious about this one is because it brings information that I haven't seen on any other external displays, such as the hand-shower display or any of the others that I've installed. Things like the performance of your vehicle, even if you don't have a performance vehicle. Things like a very detailed energy screen showing us information we've never seen before, telling us how much drain certain things in the car are putting on the battery, as well as things like current trip and other types of car information, such as energy remaining and things of that nature that I'm not used to seeing anywhere. This is all it takes for installation. One cord, a couple clips, a magnetic mount on the back of the steering wheel, and of course a phone app. And you will need to have a case on your phone because there is a little magnet you have to put on the back of this to stick it to it. So if you don't wear a case or use a wallet case, that's obviously going to be a consideration here. But right now, let's get out there and get this thing installed.
Hey, I got a confession. Been losing all momentum. Just because it's easy, but that don't make it better. I wanna dig my hands deep down in the dirt, take a walk along the street if I'm feeling dessert. All of this convenience just doesn't work for me. I wanna play with fire, let me get hurt. Can we take it back to 95?
And that's it. That's the whole install. Super easy. Well, it seems like it might not be because you are getting into your car a bit. It is a little invasive. This was done on the 2022 Model Y, but the whole install took about 5 minutes. That includes moving around the camera. And for the 58 seconds you guys just watched, well, at least you had some great music. It wasn't that great. I don't even know who that was. So next up is the app. You just go to the App Store and download it off there. It's really simple. You connect it to your phone via Bluetooth. Then it's just a matter of each time you get in the car, turning on your phone, opening up the app, and you're ready to go. So now let me walk you through this app because it's actually really impressive. So when you open up the app, you're gonna open up to this display right here. It's your typical normal stuff you might wanna look at when you're driving down the road, such as your miles per hour, what gear you're in, you have your battery percentage, and what's kind of neat is you have the battery temperature. You got the speedometer on there, you got the speed limit on there, you also have the range left in your battery, as well as they give you the city and the highway breakdown, which is kind of cool. And then in the bottom right corner, they're gonna give you your current trip, which I actually really like this feature, not having to go and find it somewhere. It's just right there, the current trip I'm driving. I record my mileage a lot for business and stuff, so it's really nice to have that up front and center. And then on the left side, it's recording what your current horsepower is you're using and the max you've been on that trip, as well as some energy information such as saved miles. Now when you swipe to the left, this is where it gets really interesting. It's gonna give you a total energy breakdown. And I've never seen anyone lay it out quite like this. First of all, the green highlighting shows you which parts of the car are actually using energy at that moment, as well as the little arrows moving from the battery to those other areas. So in the top left, you have the rear motor, which I suppose if I thought about it, I would have known, but it does the majority of the work until you really get on it. Then you'll see the front motor on the front right side start kicking in and turns green, and you see the energy being sent to the battery from that, or from it if you're accelerating. And one thing that's interesting too is if you really start decelerating, you see both of the motors kick on, which is just kind of fun to watch it work. Below that, you see the different parts of the car that can suck energy from the battery. So you can, as you're driving, turn different ones off and see what that does to your kilowatt per hour usage. For example, you can tell that my heated seating, my battery heating, and other are currently using battery consumption. However, my climate control is off, so it is not affecting the battery. Oh, and as you just saw, you can still get notifications here on your screen without it affecting what's happening in the app. And since we're talking about this, I will just mention that if you do stream Pandora from your phone via Bluetooth as well, even if you're connected to Bluetooth with this device, you can still play your music like you normally do, and neither of them affect each other. If you swipe to the left again, you get to their new performance screen, which is super cool because if you have a long-range all-wheel drive non-performance model, you didn't have access to a lot of this information. In the center screen, they're going to give you your miles per hour, your 0 to 40, 0 to 60, and quarter mile times, as well as the max horsepower on that drive. And on the left side of your car, it's kind of cool because it's going to show you where all your tilt is and the different angles and pressures. And as you're turning a corner fast, you know, what all is going on with your car just right up front and center. Of course, below you got your battery temperature and power available. And if you go all the way to the right, so if you open up the screen for the first time and you go to the right once, you're gonna go to your navigation, which I think is pretty great. It looks good for telling you where it's at. However, I was a little disappointed to see that it doesn't follow your navigation. So if you were to actually put on a navigation somewhere in your Tesla, say take me to wherever, it's not gonna show the actual navigating on your screen. No directions, no blue line, nothing. You can, however, turn on Apple Maps on your phone and those turn instructions will pop up on your screen, but it's in no way connected to this app. So my hope is that that will come out in a future update and that will be able to be there. Speaking of corrections made, I also noticed that while doing a 0 to 60 test, trying out the performance mod of this device, this app, that the miles per hour on that screen simply wasn't accurate. And so because of that, when I went 0 to 60, it didn't even register that I hit 60. As you can see here, I pulled off to the side of the road, I accelerated, went over 60 miles per hour, but that center one, speedometer there, didn't even register close to it. Again, this is something that I suspect they will fix in a future software update. This is an app, so they're gonna continually make updates to it. It is neat to see though that when I did do that acceleration, it pushed the car up to 453 horsepower, almost to its max, and I just had the pedal all the way down there. But again, you can see in the middle, it never went above 45 miles per hour, which it did. Now that's all fun and exciting, but the problem, as you might have guessed, that I have with this is that the car does not have 453 horsepower. It has somewhere around 364 horsepower. What I think they did here is they took the horsepower that the rear motors are capable of as well as the front and simply added them together, which would be somewhere around 480, but that's not how it works. But I love what they're trying to do here, and I think with a little bit of tweaking, a little software update, this can be back to accurate. Unless, of course, I'm just totally misunderstanding what it's trying to tell me, which is always possible. Now, there's one more screen you get to before you get to the actual settings, which is actually kind of nice. It's all about your Tesla. So it has 4 tabs. One is about this Tesla, which is about your Tesla. Then you got car info, which says things like what hardware you're on. Then you got your battery info, which is a little more about overall health, tells you about your battery degradation. And then there's one about your energy. So if you're kind of a nerd and like the stats, well, that's just another place to get some more. Now that energy page is pretty cool as well, because when you plug your car in, it changes and you can start seeing how many kilowatts are being pushed into your car, which is just, I don't know, kind of fun to watch. Now there are 2 other things to mention. One is that when you turn the blinker on, it does flash on the side of the screen, which is, you know, kind of a nice little detail. But what makes it really cool is when you're gonna go and actually make a turn, when you put your blinker on, if there is a car in your blind spot, the blinker turns from green to red. You can also switch through the screens when you're not using autopilot by using the right scroll wheel on your steering wheel. Not by rolling it, but by tapping it right or left. Now, it's not perfect. It's in its developmental stage and there's a few things that gotta get fixed. And the last sort of negative for me on this is the mounting system. It's a very small contact area. Both the little metal magnet you put inside of your case as well as the mount itself is a very small connection. So when you have a heavy phone like my iPhone 13 Plus, I find myself going up now and then and having to sort of re-straighten it out. And if you go and actually plug power into it, so you got some pull on the right side of it, you really do have a problem with this starting to tilt after it's a couple turns or a couple bumps. Again, I think a bigger mount and a stronger magnet would really do the trick. But that being said, it's a phenomenal piece. I was actually really impressed. My biggest fear with any kind of technology like this is that they're just duplicating what you already have on the screen right next to you. And with this, that wasn't the case. You certainly have everything you have over there, but you have so much more. And it's super convenient to see it. So in my opinion, it's definitely a fun piece of technology. Now in terms of which car this fits into, if you have a 2019 through 20 Model Y, you have a certain unit you will be sent. And if it's any newer than that, then there's a different unit you'll be sent. And that unit is the same one that'll fit into any Model Y. So if you have a Model Y, there's a unit that'll be sent to you, can fit any Model Y. And if you have a 2020 or older Model 3, there's a different one you'll have to order. Now at the time of this video, they're selling this for $195. And just like any of my videos, I'm gonna put my discount codes and everything down below this video because they could change. So make sure you go down there and check that out while you're checking it out on their site. So is this a gimmick or is this something I think people will actually use if they purchase it? So I'm sort of 50-50 on this because there's definitely information on there that is nice to have. Watching your energy consumption and where it's spent, watching your current current drive and all the stats about your current drive, and all that is actually pretty attractive. So the reason I say 50-50 is because I think after time, some of these things like watching the energy and where it's going and your current trip and all that may just sort of lose its interest. They kind of all look the same every time you do it, and you just find it's easier just to keep your phone in your pocket or in your glove box. I guess time will tell. But let me know down below in the comments what you think about this product. Obviously, like any of these things, it's not for everybody, and I don't recommend it for anyone or not. My job is to show you guys what's out there and kind of give you a tour around it, and I'd love to see what you guys have to say about these things. What do you think about the price? There's a lot of development that goes into these apps and everything that's to take into consideration, but would you pay $195 for these kind of stats, for this kind of graphic? Looking forward to seeing what you guys say down in the comments. That's gonna wrap this one up. I'll see you guys on the next one.